And first of all, my heartfelt gratitude to the grace of heaven, the great virtues of our holy teachers, and the merciful guidance of our 老前人 前人 in heaven. And thank you, masters and my fellow lecturers, for granting me this opportunity to share the Analects in this online course. And tonight, my topic is Junzi in the Analects, Part 2. In my speech, I may occasionally include a little Chinese as a final touch, which is a brief summary to bring my thoughts back to the main theme in my native language. And this isn't just for my own benefits. I think also can better serve the majority of our audience who understand Chinese. And rest assured, I will present all the key points in English first. And the Mandarin portion is simply serve as to tie everything together at the end. Okay, and in this online course, for sessions on the selective readings from the Analects, we have already had 4 sessions on this topic. And the video recordings of the 4 sessions are available on YouTube channel here. So feel free to scan the QR code and access the videos. And last time we shared the conduct and virtue of Junzi, part 1. And today we are going to continue with part 2. And why are we spending 2 full sessions talking about Junzi? Why? Because Confucius said, since it's hard for me to meet a sage, I would be satisfied to meet a Junzi. Because a sage is someone who has achieved ultimate enlightenment, while a Junzi is a true cultivator, striving in the right direction. Confucius certainly hoped that everyone could become a sage. 我们每一个人都惜圣惜贤呢, but becoming a sage requires diligent practice. Instead of holding the unrealistic idea of expecting everyone to become a sage immediately, it is more realistic, more practical to see everyone as a Junzi, a true cultivator, who diligently walks the path of self-cultivation, while wholeheartedly inspiring and guiding others as well. That's why Confucius said, since it's hard for me to meet a sage, I would be satisfied to meet a Junzi. Okay, let's go to the first passage for tonight. The first passage is Zi Gong asked about the characteristics of a Junzi. Confucius said, he first acts on what he intends to say, and only then speaks accordingly. 子贡问君子，子曰：“先行其言，而后从之。” We often say practice what you preach, but in this passage, you can see Confucius goes even further. He teaches us to practice what we intend to preach. What we intend to preach, we need to do first. Even before we speak, we must first put it into action. Let's go through this passage line by line. 先行其言. Literally, 先行其言 means first act his words, emphasizing that actions should come before speech. And this highlights Confucius' focus on integrity and the importance of avoiding empty promises. And 而后从之 means afterwards follow it with speech. And it refers to the action. Afterwards follow our action with speech. So the full meaning is after you have already taken action, then you follow that action by speaking about it. In other words, first do it, then talk about it. And 从 means following, refers to making sure that words align with actions already done, ensuring that deeds and words are consistent. Practice what you preach is a universal value. And in many cultures, great teachers have emphasized the importance of acting before speaking. A well-known story about the prophet Muhammad illustrates this beautifully. It is said that one day, an elderly man who was addicted to eating sugar came to seek Muhammad's advice. Instead of immediately telling him to stop eating sugar, Muhammad first gave up sugar himself for 7 days. And only after personally experiencing the challenge did he advise the man to practice moderation. So by leading with action, Muhammad's words carried much greater weight, become more impactful, and sincerity. This story vividly captures the spirit of 先行其言, the importance of 先行其言, act first, then speak. And on this passage, we can have some reflection. Among Confucius' many disciples, Zigong was especially known for his quick thinking and eloquent speech. He was very eloquent and he was a very talented politician. And however, Confucius recognized that Zigong sometimes paid more attention to clever words and external appearances rather than to deep inner cultivation. And because of these tendencies, Confucius especially reminded Zigong to act first and only then speak, emphasizing that a Junzi must live out his values through real actions before expressing them in words. And later in life, Zigong became a wealthy and influential figure, and yet he never forgot his teacher. He generously supported Confucius 周游列国14年, traveled among various states for 14 years, and Zigong supported Confucius' travel. And after Confucius' passing, it is said that Zigong mourned beside his master's grave for 6 years. 守丧6年, far beyond the traditional 3-year mourning period. So through his actions, he fulfilled his master's teachings, proving that true loyalty and virtue are shown not in words, but in deeds. Real influence comes from what we do, not just what we say. And there are several passages in the Analects that resonate with this one, very similar. The first one is 子曰古者言之不出，此攻之不待也. The master said, in ancient times, people were reluctant to speak freely because they were ashamed when their actions failed to live up to their words. When Confucius said in ancient times, he wasn't just talking about history. He was drawing a sharp contrast, showing that even by his own time, the spirit of careful speech and sincere action had already begun to fade. People were no longer ashamed of falling short of their words. And now, more than 2,500 years have gone by, and this situation has only grown worse. Today, it is no longer just that people fail to live up to their words. People even, 诈骗, cheat money. It is even more heartbreaking to see that some people now use sweet words and clever talk to deceive, 用很多话术, to trick and to hurt others. And the second similar passage is 子曰君子耻其言而过其行. The master said, a Junzi considers it shameful when his words go beyond what he actually does, because he feels ashamed if his words go beyond his actions. That's why in this passage, a Junzi first acts on what he intends to say, and only then speaks accordingly because he feels ashamed if his words go beyond his actions. So here we see that Confucius uses very strong words, ashamed, shameful, 耻. And this shows that in Confucius' view, it is truly disgraceful when one's words go beyond their actions. It is not enough just try to match our words with our actions. Because sometimes, even if we try hard to match our words with our actions might still fall behind our words. And that's why Confucius said we should act first and only then speak. In other words, first do it, then talk about it. Two similar passages, and there are the third one. 子贡曰：“我不欲人之家诸我也，吾亦欲吾家诸人。”子曰：“是也，非尔所及也。” Zigong said, "What I do not wish others to impose upon me, I will not impose upon others." The master replied, 是, that is beyond your ability. Zigong voices a noble rule. If I dislike something done to me, I will never do it to others. Confucius answers kindly yet firmly. 是 was Zigong's given name. 是, your words are fine, but living them is far harder. And to reach that state, you must first train both your heart and your actions, day by day, until ideal and deed become one. In other words, sounding virtuous is easy. Embodying true virtue is real work. Confucius was not discouraging Zigong. On the contrary, he was urging him to engage in sincere, diligent self-cultivation. To review, Zigong asked about the characteristics of a Junzi. Confucius replied, he first acts on what he intends to say, and only then speaks accordingly. Act first, then talk about it. Now we are going to share several passages on the contrast between Junzi and Xiaoren. In the Analects, when Confucius talks about the Junzi, he often contrasts them with Xiaoren, the so-called petty or small-minded person. A Junzi adheres to inner moral integrity, while Xiaoren prioritizes personal gain. And last time we shared several passages on this comparison. Today, we're going to explore even more. However, when we encounter these comparisons, we should not view them as a way to judge others. We don't label people. Instead, we should use them as a mirror for self-reflection. Why? As ordinary people, we may carry both Junzi-like and Xiaoren-like tendencies within us, only in varying degree. And through introspection, we can cultivate and strengthen our Junzi-like qualities and elevating our character toward true nobility, while gradually eliminating our Xiaoren-like tendencies to avoid being truly petty individuals. The second passage for tonight. The master said, a Junzi looks to the larger whole, not to little circles. A petty person clings to little circles and never sees the larger whole. 子曰：君子周而不避，小人避而不周。周 literally means all round, universal, and by extension, 引申为 public-spirited, for the whole. 避 literally means to draw close, intimacy, and by extension, 引申为 private, self-centered. So, 周而不避 means caring for everyone and putting the whole group first. 其实这个就是济公的精神了 the spirit of 济公 caring for everyone and putting the whole group first, instead of closing ourselves off in a small private group. Confucius praises the Junzi for this public spirit and reminds us not to slip into. No, here, slip into means 不小心就会陷进这个陷阱啊 not to slip into the trap of selfishness of small circles. And 避而不周 避而不周 means clinging to small private circle and ignoring the wider community. It describes the petty person who puts personal ties first and forgets the public good. A Junzi puts the public good first, even if it comes at a personal cost. But a petty person only thinks about a private gain and doesn't care about others, how others are affected. And the line between a Junzi and a petty person is in two key positions: public versus private, 公与私, and righteousness versus profit, 义与利. We're very familiar with the passage, the first passage of the book of Mencius, 梁惠王, 何必约利? We're very familiar. Righteous versus profit. A Junzi stands for the public good and for righteousness. A petty person stands for the private gain and for profit. I'm going to share with you a true story. In 2018, 这个新闻其实很多人都知道啊。A youth soccer team in Thailand made up of 12 boys and their coach, a total of 13 people, became trapped inside a scenic spot, a cave. And suddenly heavy rains flooded the cave and blocking their way out. They were stuck deep inside for more than 2 weeks. And rescuing them was very difficult because the cave was dark, narrow, and full of water. And divers had to swim through long flooded passages to reach the boys. It was a dangerous mission that required expert divers from many countries. To help the rescue, workers needed to pump out huge amounts of water from the cave. But there was so much rainwater that it had to go somewhere, and which meant that nearby farmlands would be flooded. Over 1 billion liters of water had to be pumped out of the cave to lower the water levels and make parts of the cave more accessible. And faced with this situation, nearby farmers willingly accepted the loss. Without hesitation, they allowed their fields to be flooded to make room for the rising water. At least 19 farmers gave up their crops, and some even sacrificed their entire farms. They refused government compensation, they refused money, and saying that saving the boys' lives mattered much more than any personal loss. 所以那时候真的很感人哦。And in this act of selfless giving, we see the true spirit of choosing righteousness over profit, the public good over private gain. And when faced with someone else's life and death struggles, 当你看到别人正在生死攸关的时候，还有心情来计较自己的损失吗？ When faced with someone else's life and death struggles, these farmers didn't think about what they might lose. Instead, they showed us what it truly means to be a Junzi. And that, every passage regarding this topic is for all of us to do self-reflection, not to label anyone. So there's a quick self-reflection we can all do to see whether we lean toward being a Junzi or a petty person. There's a saying, 我不知何者为君子，但见凡事肯吃亏者就是了。I may not always recognize the perfect Junzi, but I do see this. Anyone who is willing to shoulder a loss so that others can benefit is walking the noble path. 我不知何者为小人，但见凡事占便宜者就是了。 I don't always know who the petty person is, yet I do see this. Anyone who tries to profit from every situation at someone else's expense is on the petty road. To review, the master said, a Junzi looks to the larger whole, not to little circles. A petty person clings to little circles, never sees the larger whole. 君子周而不避，小人避而不周. The third passage, the master said, a Junzi cherishes virtue. A petty person clings to their comforts. A Junzi upholds the law. A petty person seeks favors or personal benefits which they may receive. 君子怀德，小人怀土；君子怀行，小人怀惠。君子怀德 What stays on a Junzi's mind day and night is this. 德 is virtue. So Junzi always reflects upon himself. Am I truly living the Tao? 我有没有修道培德啊 ？Am I growing in virtue? 我有没有利益苍生呢 ？And beyond that, am I doing good for others? 我对世人有好处吗 ？Am I leaving behind something meaningful? 你小人怀土 on the contrary. Literally, 土 means land. So literally it means a petty person clings to the land. But here land can be interpreted as the comfort zone. The comfort zone. So petty person tend to avoid challenges and prefer to stay where things feel safe, even if it means missing the opportunity to grow. We all know that stepping out of our comfort zone so that we can grow. But a petty person would rather stay in their comfort zone and missing the opportunity to grow. And this spirit is especially meaningful in the Wai-Yang era, when the universal propagation of Tao is permitted. If it were not for our grand senior elder, Lao Qianren, and senior elder Qianren, who gave up the comfort of their homeland and braved the long journey overseas, spreading Tao in Taiwan, and later leading many Tao cultivators abroad to pioneer new frontiers. If everyone has simply clung to their comfort zones, there will be no flourishing Tao communities and centers across so many countries today. And there will be no us, no Tao brothers and sisters walking the path together. In Junzi Huaixing, literally it means a Junzi is mindful of punishment. Xing means punishment. And this extends to in some way. A Junzi respects laws and societal norms. Junzi 守法 guided not by fear, but 不是为了怕被处罚 but by a deep sense of justice and moral responsibility. 那小人怀惠 小人 a petty person is driven by self-interest. So always looking for material gain or personal advantage. To illustrate this contrast, a Junzi upholds the law, a petty person seeks favors or personal benefit. There's an example. There is a factory owner in the textile dyeing industry. He runs a factory that uses large amounts of chemical dyes and water to process fabric. And these dyes contain heavy metals, 有很多重金属 and other pollutants. The law requires proper treatment of wastewater, 废水处理 before it can be released into the environment. So this Junzi, he invests in a full wastewater treatment system that filters out toxins, neutralizes pH levels, and ensures the water meets government safety standards. It's expensive. It cuts into his profit, but he believes it's the right thing to do for the community, the river nearby, and the future generations. He follows the law, not because he's afraid of being caught, but because he feels a moral responsibility to uphold what is right. So this is 君子怀行. 君子 upholds the law because he truly believes that law is essential to a stable and orderly society. And there's another factory owner who runs a similar dyeing factory, but chooses to cut costs, 降低成本. Instead of installing a treatment system, he dumps the untreated wastewater, 废水就乱倒啊, full of dye, acid, and toxins, directly into the sewer system. 在月黑风高的时候啊, at night, when no one is watching, he saves money and boosts his profits in the short term. But over time, the local river turns dark and starts to smell. Fish die. Nearby farmers lose crops. Due to polluted water, children fall sick. This is 小人怀惠. A petty person only cares about immediate personal benefit, ignoring long-term harm to others and the environment. The master said, a Junzi cherishes virtue. A petty person clings to their comfort. A Junzi upholds the law. A petty person seeks favor or personal benefit, which he may receive. So true nobility isn't about status or success. It's about choosing virtue, 怀德, over comfort, 怀土. 怀德胜于怀土. And justice, choosing justice over greed. 选择公义胜于呢拥抱自己的贪婪. And finding joy in what is morally good. 在行自己的这个自性的这个内在的善良的时候呢，感到喜悦，这个是怀德。Finding joy. 他在做的时候，他不是痛苦的，他是 finding joy, 怀德。And rejecting what is not good. 对于不合法的事，排斥，怀行。This is what makes someone a 君子. Pursuing comfort, 怀土, and striving to obtain benefits, 怀惠. This is what makes someone a petty person. The fourth passage, the master said, a 君子 in dealing with the world has neither fixed preferences nor stubborn rejections. He aligns his actions with righteousness. 子曰：君子之于天下也，无敌也，无莫也，义之与弊。A Junzi does not insist that every situation must be handled in a fixed way, nor does he stubbornly forbid certain actions as absolutely unacceptable. 一个君子他不会一直很固执，他不会很固执的啊。Instead, he acts according to what aligns with righteousness. And this means that a Junzi can adapt his actions depending on the situation, but he never compromises his core values, righteousness. And this reminds us of a story from the book of Mencius, 少逆源之一手，这个故事啊, the example of saving one's sister-in-law from drowning. In ancient times, in ancient China, it was considered improper for men and women to have direct dealings with each other, even passing objects by hand. But when the sister-in-law was drowning, Mencius said that extending a hand to save her life is always the right thing to do. And this illustration from Mencius shows us that a Junzi doesn't blindly follow customs or social norms. Instead, he responds to the deeper principle of righteousness as it reveals itself in each moment. What guides his actions is righteousness, not rigid conventions. And that's what it means to act with wisdom and compassion in an ever-changing world. 就是要活泼玲珑啊，所以老师说呢， 修道要活泼玲珑啊。Holy teacher said, when we cultivate Tao, we should remain open and adaptable, not rigid or bound by fixed rules. Like water, we adjust naturally to our surroundings so that we can benefit all things without pushing with ego or insistence. In any situation, if we can take a step back, 退一步, with patience and let go of attachment, the path will open before us. Just like the sea, vast and untroubled, our hearts will feel light, free, and at ease. The master said, a Junzi in dealing with the world has neither fixed preferences nor stubborn rejections. He aligns his actions with righteousness. 无敌也，无莫也，义之与弊. The fifth passage is about 子产. 子产 was older than Confucius. So we don't have much information. I mean, in the Analects, only this passage, but I have found some other passages in like 左传. So I have done some research and would like to share with you. Confucius spoke of 子产, saying he embodied 4 qualities of Junzi. In conducting himself, he practiced respectful restraint. 其行己也恭啊. In serving his superiors, he was reverent. 其事上也敬. In caring for the people, he was benevolent. 其养民也惠. And in assigning duties to the people, he upheld righteousness. 其使民也义. Before we begin exploring Confucius' words about 子产, let's take a moment to understand why 子产 was remembered with such deep respect, not only by Confucius, but by the common people as well. 子产, 584 to 522 BCE, also known as 公孙桥, served as the chief minister of the state of Zheng, 郑国首相, during the spring and autumn period, 春秋时代的郑国首相, which is a time of great political unrest. And he was 33 years older than Confucius and thrived in an era when Zheng, 当郑国是一个小国的时候, a very small state, and 郑国 was surrounded by powerful neighbors. 晋国在北边呢, 楚国在南边呢, 晋 in the north and Chu in the south. And because of his compassion and wisdom, he governed this small state with great care and guiding Zheng through difficult times. With diplomatic insight and courage, he raised the state from vulnerability to a position of respect among its powerful neighbors. 让郑国这个小国，让晋楚都不敢小看他。And 子产 was known for his respectful restraint. 其行己也恭. Even though he held the powerful position of prime minister, 他贵为首相啊, he never showed off or acted superior, 从来不觉得自己有什么了不起. He exercised self-discipline, never allowing his position or authority to corrupt his character. 从来没有因为自己位置高呢，而让自己的德性腐化。And his lifestyle was simple and restrained, free from luxury and indulgence. As Confucius praised, his conduct was marked by respectful restraint. And this is very touching. 子产 governed with a deep sense of integrity, even at the peak of his power. 他正在权力的顶峰的时候呢, he never used his position for personal gain. When he passed away, he left behind no wealth. 他没有遗产呢，他去世的时候没有遗产呢。And the people of Zheng were so moved by his character that they offered to donate. 看大家开始抖内啊，开始 donate money and resources for his funeral, but his son respectfully declined. 他儿子居然拒绝呢。It was a true reflection of the virtuous family values 子产 had passed down. 真是家风啊，廉洁的家风啊。And 子产 was a leader who listened to the people. What made 子产 truly remarkable was his deep respect for the public opinion. He believed in listening to the voices of ordinary people, 倾听人民的声音哦。And he welcomed open discussion. Back then, citizens often gathered at a place called 乡校。那时候的老百姓啊，常常聚集在一个地方叫做乡校，在那边聊天啊。乡校 was a kind of community school and public space where they would talk about politics and government performance, 高谈阔论啊。And one day, an official named 冉明 asked 子产 whether the 乡校 should be torn down. 说乡校把它拆了吧，因为人民都在批评政府because people were using it to criticize the government. 子产 firmly replied, "Why tear it down? After a long day's work, the people gather there to discuss the strengths and weaknesses of our policies. If they approve of something, we go ahead with it. If they oppose it, we reflect and make changes." 如果老百姓高兴，我们就继续做；如果老百姓反对，我们就改。这是子产的话啊。And their voices are like our teachers. How could we destroy a place like that? Teaches us. Confucius deeply admired 子产 for this because you imagine that in a society where people had little freedom, in an authoritative society, 一个专制集权的一个社会哦，人民没有自由哦，但是 it's remarkable that 子产 was able to be so democratic. And his respectful restraint enabled him to truly listen to the people, and that's what made him a true statesman. Why he could listen to the people? I think because of his self-restraint. 他没有 arrogance, so that he could listen to the people because of his 行己也恭嘛。And 事上也敬. In serving his superiors, he was reverent. 子产 served under multiple dukes of Zheng, including 郑简公、郑定公. And with loyalty and restraint. It is said that though 子产 held great power, he never gave the slightest hint of ambition that might threaten his duke's authority. 虽然子产权力很大哦，但是他上面的郑简公、郑定公完全不用担心说他会威胁到他们的王位，完全不用担心，就知道子产是多么的恭敬啊。Even when advising the duke, 子产 spoke with honesty and deep respect. Always principled, never flattering. And this was the essence of serving superiors with reverence, which is a quiet strength rooted in duty, humility, and moral clarity. And among his many benevolent reforms to benefit the people, 子产's compassion was not just spoken, it was reflected in his policies. And one clear example was his reform of the military tax system. 这个很有名哦，丘赋. He implemented the land unit tax, 丘赋啊。Requiring that everyone to contribute based on the amount of land they owned. 就是人民每个人都要缴那个 military tax, 不管是贵族或百姓都要缴。本来贵族都逃税的哦，那因为子产，所以他们就开始要缴了哦。And this brought greater fairness and transparency, easing the burden on ordinary people. And for the first time, nobles were required to share responsibility for national defense, ending their centuries-old tax exemptions, because the nobles hadn't paid military taxes for hundreds of years. And those nobles fiercely opposed the reform, 所以贵族都起来反抗啊。但子产怎么说呢？子产说他是生死置之度外啊，他说苟利社稷，死生已知啊。子产 stood firm, saying, if it benefits the state, I care not for life or death. And this was just one of his many benevolent reforms. Through his leadership, we truly saw that he governed with both wisdom and compassion. And 使民也义, in assigning duties to the people, he upheld righteousness. 子产 believed that leadership wasn't just about having power, it was about being fair. Whenever work needed to be done, whether for public projects, government needs, or community responsibilities, he made sure that the load was shared fairly. He didn't take advantage of the ordinary people or give special treatment to the powerful. He also paid attention to the people's situation. 农忙的时候就不会叫老百姓来工作啊。For example, during the busy farming seasons, he made sure not to overwork people, knowing they already had a lot of work to handle. And 子产 always tried to do what was right and what was fair, and giving out responsibilities with thought and care. And this was his attitude toward employing the people: fair, considerate, and reasonable. 子产 was a man of such character and virtue, so when he passed away, the people didn't just mourn a leader, they mourned someone who had truly touched their lives. They said, I have children, 子产 taught them. I have fields, 子产 tended them. Now that 子产 is gone, who will carry on? 后继无人哦。So even Confucius wept when he heard the news. He called 子产 a compassionate soul from ancient times. 子产去世的时候，孔老夫子也哭了哦，说子产是古老的时代留下来的一个 compassion, a compassionate soul from ancient times. And perhaps that's the highest praise a statesman can receive. 一个政治人物所能够接受到的最高的赞美，大概就这样的吧。Not for power, but for the kindness they leave behind. Confucius spoke of 子产, saying he embodied 4 qualities of a 君子. In conducting himself, he practiced respectful restraint. In serving his superiors, he was reverent. In caring for the people, he was benevolent. And in assigning duties to the people, he upheld righteousness. The 6th passage, very famous, 文质彬彬. The master said, when essence outweighs refinement, one becomes uncultivated, 直胜文者也. When refinement outweighs essence, one becomes superficial, 文胜直则是. Only when essence and refinement are in harmonious balance can he be called a 君子. 文质彬彬，然后君子. So 直 means essence. Someone translate, some other translation translate as substance. It's okay too. So essence refers to a person's core nature and inner cultivation, the inner self beneath the appearances. And 文 means refinement. The exterior refinement refers to outward expression, like elegance or the cultivation of one's manners and appearance. And 也 也 means unrefined, lacking in polish or social grace due to the absence of outward refinement. And 始 means superficial, having only external refinements without inner essence or depth. And 彬彬 means well-balanced, describes someone who harmoniously blends inner essence and outward refinement. About 直胜文者也 when essence outweighs refinement, one becomes uncultivated. Here's an example. I once visited a country where people were warm and passionate, but their hearts were kind, their energy was contagious. But almost every sentence, especially 前道, but almost every sentence they spoke began with a strong word and ended with some other colorful language. And for this, we don't label anyone 直胜文文胜子, we just do self-reflection. No matter how good our intentions may be, if our words lack grace or consideration, there's something we must also work on in our Tao cultivation, because 不修习菩萨 never resting bodhisattva in standard 崇德 cultivators 标准崇德人呢，第一句就说标本兼治，智慧生啊。To truly cultivate Tao, we must address both the root, 本 inside, what's inside, and the surface, what's on the outside. Only by nurturing our inner nature and correcting our outward temper can wisdom naturally emerge. So the people there, they were really kind and warm people, but their words need to be refined. And there's another kind of person we may have met, someone who is kind-hearted and always willing to help, but they tend to speak very directly without considering how their words might affect others. In Chinese, we can describe this as 刀子口豆腐心, a knife mouth with a tofu heart, sharp on the outside, but soft on the inside. And their intentions are good, but their words can easily cause hurt. It's also an example of 直胜文. So this too is an example of having good inner essence, but an unrefined outward expression, where straightforwardness, 因为他们那么直，所以这个 straightforwardness turns into harshness, 所以他们的直变成很严厉， and kindness gets hidden, 然后他们的慈悲就看不到了，就被严厉所包起来了， and kindness gets hidden behind careless speech. So we can do self-reflection. Maybe we can reflect in this way. The way we speak reflects the way we think and how we respect others. If we speak rudely or carelessly, it may show that we lack respect for the people, for the person in front of us. And in that case, we can't honestly say that our heart is good. We can't say that we are kind, no matter how good we believe our intentions are, because we lack respect, so that we say some rude words. Okay, 文胜直则是 when refinement outweighs essence. But if we focus only on skillful phrasing, on saying things in just the right way to please others, we may end up constantly watching people's faces, speaking to gain approval rather than to speak with sincerity. 那我们如果一直注重这个文字的修辞，那可能会变成一直讲好听的话，而没有真诚哦。And when we lose our sincerity, 没有真诚的时候呢， what we are left is just empty words. 所有的文字都变成空洞了啊。So this is refinement that surpass essence. 直胜文，文胜直啊。Smooth on the surface, but hollow at the core. And that is not true cultivation either. So only when essence and refinement exist in harmonious balance, 文质彬彬, can one truly be called a Junzi, a person of noble cultivation, a person of true cultivation. And of course, like many other teachings in the Analects, 虽然我们举例但是 we have no intention to criticize others, just 见贤思齐，见不贤内自省了。So this passage is meant for our self-reflection, not for judging others. And the seventh passage, the master said, a Junzi helps others fulfill what is good in them, but never helps them do what is wrong. A petty person does the opposite. 所以小人永远是刚好相反所以不用多形容，反正就是 the opposite. So this passage can be explored from two perspectives, from human nature and from life journey. A Junzi helps others in two important ways, in their human nature and in their life journey. 这怎么说呢？Human nature. First, when it comes to human nature, a Junzi sincerely hopes to bring out the goodness, the beauty, and the kindness in others. 成人之美，君子有成人之美，就是希望把人们内在的真善美能够呈现出来。They encourage and support people to live according to what is true, what is true and good within them. A Junzi believes in the goodness within every person, 相信每个人人性本善 and hopes that by helping others shine their inner light, we can all make the world a better place together. This is a very beautiful holy revelation. 照亮生命全员真善美 conveyed by 曹国舅大仙 and our holy teacher in 1999. Illuminate the origin of life, 照亮生命的全员 the origin, the fountain of life, to manifest truth, goodness, and beauty. So because a Junzi believes in the goodness within every person and hopes that by helping others shine their inner light to make the world a better place. But a petty person does just the opposite, 刚好相反. They don't bring out the good in others. Instead, they stir up anger, jealousy, and resentment. 制造仇恨They cause division, form cliques, and do whatever it takes to protect their own interests or satisfy their selfish desires. And secondly, when it comes to a life journey, to life's ups and downs, a Junzi is happy. A Junzi is happy when others succeed. They feel genuine joy when someone's life is full of happiness, full of achievement or peace. If needed, they will even lend a hand to help others become more fulfilled or successful. 他们对于别人的成功很乐见很高兴，有需要他们都愿意帮忙，如果需要的话在别人的生活中呢的一些成就，他们都很乐见And this is because a Junzi has a heart that rejoices in the happiness and success of others. What we call a heart of sympathetic joy. 随喜心 a heart of sympathetic joy. But again, a petty person is just the opposite. 小人刚好相反When they see someone doing well, they become jealous and may even try to get in the way, 甚至横生阻挠. And when they see someone struggling or suffering, they might even secretly feel pleased. 看到别人不幸，说不定还幸灾乐祸这小人So the reason why the actions of a 君子 and a petty person are so different comes down to their mindset. 那为什么君子小人差这么多呢？就在这里了 mindset， 他们的心态啊。A 君子 feels joy when others succeed. 一个君子就是说别人成功，他真的很高兴哦。When others succeed or find happiness, that's a heart of rejoicing. But a petty person thinks he has what I don't, and that thought turns into jealousy. 但小人心态刚好相反，他想说别人有的我都没有，所以就开始嫉妒了，我就差在这里。As cultivators, what we need to develop is a heart that rejoices in others' success and to let go of jealousy. 那当然修道就是要培养随喜心呢，然后来降服嫉妒心呢。哦，But how can we truly rejoice without feeling jealous? 到底要如何真正的 rejoice， 真正随喜而没有嫉妒呢？ It starts with having confidence in ourselves. 当我们有自信的时候，就可以了，就比较可以了。It starts with having confidence in ourselves, recognizing our own strengths, 肯定自己的长处 and using them well, 而且发挥它。We must learn to affirm our own worth, 肯定自己的价值啊。Just as the saying goes, I was born with a purpose. Each of us has our own unique gifts. So we learn to rejoice in others' success and believing in ourselves. It's easy to fall into the habit of feeling we are not good enough or constantly comparing ourselves to others. 因为比较，然后觉得自己不如别人哦。But we need to understand that this kind of self-doubt, 这种自我怀疑哦 easily give rise to negative emotions. And when those emotions turn aggressive, they become jealousy. And when they turn passive, they become frustration. 所以这种自我怀疑哦，激烈的话变嫉妒，消极的话呢变成颓废哦。And that's why it's so important to recognize our own worth and to genuinely appreciate the success of others. 成人之美。The master said, a Junzi helps others fulfill what is good in them, but never helps them do what is wrong. A petty person does the opposite. The eighth passage. The master said, a Junzi seeks harmony without demanding uniformity, while a petty person seeks uniformity without harmony. 君子和而不同，小人同而不和。Harmony without sameness. So let's find the beauty of differences. In our world today, we often hear calls for unity, 我们要团结 but unity does not mean uniformity. 团结并不代表大家都一样。True harmony is not about making everyone think, act, or feel the same. It's about embracing our differences and learning to live respectfully with them. 而是要尊重别人的不同啊。So Confucius' teachings tell us that a Junzi, a person of noble character, knows how to live in harmony with those who think differently. He may not share the same views, 可能大家观点不一样哦 but he treats others with respect, and that's real harmony. But a petty person, by contrast, insists that others must agree with him. And when they don't, he rejects. Or worse, he pretends to agree just to serve his own interests. But even within such small alliances formed for personal gain, there's still constant conflict and unrest. 那小人呢，他坚持别人要跟他一样，那有时候为了私利呢，勉强自己表面上跟别人一样，那在看起来是同样的一个团体中呢，还互相的争权夺利啊，就是 就这样啊。And the truth is, no two people are exactly alike. We all see the world from different angles, shaped by our experiences, beliefs, and personalities. So instead of forcing others to conform to our way of thinking, we should learn to appreciate those differences. 这真的是很大的一个宽宏大量啊！哈，我看起来是9，那别人看起来是6，然后你能够包容，你知道角度不同。这个it looks very delicious 啊，because lots of different ingredients are inside of the soup. So we can also see the principle in something as simple and beautiful as cooking to illustrate harmony without sameness. 来用这碗汤来形容什么叫做和而不同the beauty of differences. A flavoring soup is never made with just one ingredient. 如果你只用一种材料能够煮出一碗好汤吗？这不可能呢，对不对？ It takes many ingredients, roots, herbs, vegetables, spices, and many others. And each one brings something unique. And when they are simmered together, they don't lose their identity. They blend and enhance one another. And that's what makes the soup rich and satisfying. An orchestra, the same. And think about a symphony orchestra. A single instrument cannot not deliver the full power of a piece. But when violins, flutes, trumpets, and drums each play their part, sometimes loud, sometimes silent, something magical happens. They create a breathtaking performance. In the orchestra, no one tries to steal the spotlight. 在一个交响乐团当中，没有人要抢这个 spotlight. And every musician plays with humility and precision, knowing they are part of something far greater than themselves. 知道他们只是一个很大很大的大我当中的一个小部分，然后就是这样奉献，这个就是济公，济公啊。So this is the spirit we cherish in our Tao cultivation and in the world. Though we come from different countries, cultures, and religions, we are drawn together by a shared aspiration to return to the purest goodness in true nature. 我们有共同理想，我们要恢复本性之自然挽化人心，赋予良善。And that is why we receive Tao and dedicate ourselves to spreading Tao. And even within a single family, people may have different temperaments and views. But when we learn to listen, to respect, and to work together despite our differences, something extraordinary happens. Life becomes more joyful. Communities grow more peaceful, and the world moves a little closer to a true harmony. Harmony without sameness. That is the beauty of humanity. And that is the path of a Junzi. The master said, a Junzi seeks harmony without demanding uniformity, while a petty person seeks uniformity without harmony. Okay, the 9th passage for tonight. This passage is a bit long, but it's very useful. The master said, a Junzi is easy to serve, but hard to please. If you try to please him in ways that are not in line with Tao, he won't be pleased. 君子易事而难悦也，他很好服侍，但是他很难取悦哦。以不合道的方式去取悦他，他不高兴哦。When it comes to how he assigns tasks, 他在分配工作的时候he does so according to each person's strength. 他会因材气使，看个人的才华，然后就能够好好的用人according to each person's strength. A petty person, on the other hand, is hard to serve. 而小人就很不好服侍哦。But easy to please. 但是要取悦小人很简单啊。Even if you try to please him in the wrong way, 用不合道的方式 he'll be happy. When it comes to how he assigns work, 至于说他来任命工作呢，那就糟了啊。He demands perfection. 哦，他要求很多。He demands perfection and shows no tolerance. 然后没有任何商量余地啊，要求很多啊。及其使人也，求备焉啊。So why Confucius gave this teaching? During the spring and autumn period, the rulers of various states were in constant competition, and every state actively sought to recruit talented individuals. However, those who held high office, such as the rulers themselves or their prime ministers, were often nobles who had inherited their positions by birth. As a result, petty men were everywhere, while true Junzi were few. 就春秋时代，各国竞争很厉害啊，那各国都要挖掘人才啊。但是主席世者啊，就是国君跟宰相哦，都是世袭，就父传子这样啊。所以呢，到后来哦，居高位的人哦，就小人居多哦，那君子很少啊，结果就这样。所以呢，孔老夫子怕他的弟子呢被小人所用啊，那会被小人欺负啊，所以孔老夫子呢就告诉他们啊，分辨君子，何为君子，何为小人啊。Confucius, however, had many outstanding disciples, men of virtue, deep learning, and genuine ability. Many of them went on to serve in different states, becoming trusted advisors to rulers and ministers. And concerned that his disciples might be taken advantage of by petty men, Confucius took special care to teach them how to distinguish a 君子 from a petty person. 所以这一章才会有这一章啊。A 君子 is easy to serve but hard to please. 曾子 here I quote a passage from 曾子. Among Confucius' most exceptional disciples, Zhenzi was one of the two entrusted with heavenly mandate. 曾子是十则当中四配当中唯二继承天命的哦。所以曾子说呢 ，Upon seeing a single virtue in a person, Confucius would let 100 past faults fade from memory. That's what makes him easy to serve. That means if Confucius saw a good quality in someone, he would forget all the mistakes that person had ever made. 就是孔老夫子只要看到一个人他有一个长处一个德性哦，他就忘却这个人以前所曾经对他做过，就是说对他做过什么错误的失礼的的事情，没有德性的事，他都忘记了。只要他看到一个人有一个德性，所以夫子见人之一善而忘其百非呀，是夫子之义事也。所以孔老夫子就很容易跟人家相处，因为他都看人的长处嘛，对不对 ？So when getting along with others，所以老前人呢，先佛一直教导我们呢，要看人的好处啊。When getting along with others，we should learn to see their good qualities, not focus on their faults or weaknesses. 这样你就会易事，你就会 easy to serve. What's more, a 君子 always keeps others in mind. 而且君子都会把下面人的处境呢，会考量到啊。When he is in a high position, when a 君子 is in a high position, he thinks about those who work under him. He understands that even a casual remark or a simple request can create unexpected consequences. 他知道一个居高位的人轻轻讲一句话，就可能造成下面人就人仰马翻啊，可能这样哦。So what feels like a light comment to him might lead to people rushing around trying to meet expectations, and that's why a true leader speaks with care. 所以一个居高位的君子，他不随便讲话，因为他轻轻讲一句话，下面就人仰马翻了。So he acts with thoughtfulness because he knows the weight of his words and the impact they have on others. 所以真的是很 considerate. Here I would like to share a true example, a true story from our 老前人. One year just before the Mid-Autumn Festival, the story was in 1980s, 民国70几年的时候啊, a grand senior elder visited a Tao temple. The temple staff had been experimenting with making mooncakes for the first time. 就是有一些道亲正在试着做月饼啊。Honestly, the result wasn't successful. 是月饼做的并不成功啊。The filling was still a bit wet. 就是那个馅哦，还湿湿的啊。And the crust, 外面那个没有酥啊，就是还湿湿的。The crust hadn't turned golden or flaky. And they cut just one of the small cakes into 4 pieces and offered the grand senior elder a slice. 就请老前人吃那个小月饼的1/4哦。And after 老前人 took a bite, they politely asked, "Elder, how is it? Is it good?" 说您老好吃吗？这月饼好吃吗？ Guess 老前人猜猜看老前人如何回答哦。老前人如果说不好吃，那不是打击到他们吗？ The grand senior elder gently replied, "Whatever I eat, it tastes good to me." And then with a peaceful smile, he added, "Wherever I go, I feel the same peace." This is the true story because my elder sister was there and she told me the true story. At first, it sounds like it's very simple and very humble comment and nothing special. But when you look deeper, you can find it's something extraordinary. Behind those few words lies the heart of a sage. Think about it. If 老前人 say, "Oh, it tastes terrible," 然后呢，道亲就受打击的 then the temple staff will feel discouraged. But if 老前人 said, "Oh, it tastes good," it's good, delicious, then probably people will rush around and spreading words saying, 老前人喜欢吃这种月饼，以后我们就做这种月饼。Spreading words like a grand senior elder enjoy eating such mooncake, so in the future we're just preparing such mooncake. 所以这两个都不对哦。老前人说 "Whatever I eat, it tastes good to me. Wherever I go, I feel the same peace." So it reflects a state of inner joy and contentment. 所以这是出自一个圣哲，一个内心的 inner joy, 然后一种知足啊 contentment. What we often call a beautiful heart. 心美则物物皆美，心善则事事皆善。When the heart is at peace, everything tastes good. When the heart is kind, everything feels right. That's just what most people can't do. We tend to compare our surroundings and thinking, "Oh, this place feels like home," or "That place makes me uncomfortable." We have a comfort zone and we like to stay in our comfort zone. And when we are outside of it, we feel unsettled, like we are sitting on pins and needles. 所以离开自己的舒适圈就如坐针毡，这个是一般人呢。那老前人不是哦。Whatever I eat, it tastes good to me. Wherever I go, I feel the same peace. It's not something ordinary. It reflects true equanimity, a mind that has transcended distinctions, a heart that has blended into emptiness. 这个心已经与太虚合一了 open, clear, and free from clinging. And such a person doesn't demand perfection. 这样的人怎么会求全呢？怎么会吹毛求疵呢？ He doesn't make things difficult. 很容易侍奉啊。Even a small offering, flawed and imperfect, 一个做不好的月饼啊 is received with gratitude and peace. And this is the quiet, powerful presence of a 君子. A 君子 is easy to serve, but hard to please. Serving a 君子 is easy, but pleasing him is difficult. Why? Because if you try to win his favor through improper means, he won't be pleased. If your gift is meant to flatter, win favor, or serve as a bribe, a 君子 will not accept it because it goes against his core values. So if you want to truly please a 君子, there's no need to flatter him or cater to selfish desires. Just act with integrity and walk the path of Tao. 而真正要取悦一个君子，就是合道就好了。像我们去见老前人，老前人不是常跟我们说，来见我做什么啊？你多久没有回去见你父母了？对，所以合道就好啊。He will naturally recognize and appreciate your sincerity. And when it comes to employing people, 至于这个君子他如何用人呢？啊 When it comes to employing people, he knows how to match them with the right responsibilities. He puts the right person in the right place, just like choosing the right vessel for the right purpose. Each one placed exactly where it belongs. 哦，这很高的智慧哦。And that's because a 君子 sees people clearly. 因为他看人看得很透彻，因为他有智慧嘛。He has the wisdom to recognize each person's strengths and the insight to know where they will thrive. 他知道这个人要怎么样来用他啊，才能发挥他最大的长处啊。And what's more, there's no selfish motive in his decision making. 他决策的时候他不自私哦。If someone truly has talent, there's no need to flatter or curry favor. Curry favor means trying to gain approval through flattery or overly pleasing behavior. 你不用去取悦君子哦。A 君子 will naturally recognize their words and entrust them with responsibility. So the reason a 君子 is easy to serve, 所以一个君子很好侍奉哦。is also connected to how he appoints people according to their strengths. 也跟他用人哦，气质有关哦。His wisdom, his fairness, his selflessness make it easy for others to follow him. 因为他无私，所以人们跟随他很容易啊。Because they know they will be seen. 因为他知道他无私，所以他知道他看得到。They will be valued. And they will be treated justly. 小人就不用多讲啊，刚好相反了。A petty person is hard to serve because in their world, everything revolves around them. Self-centered. They expect everything to go their way. And the moment something doesn't, they blame others, showing displeasure or act cold. They hardly ever put themselves in other people's shoes. It's what we sometimes call 公主病啊，这个 princess syndrome 啊，其实是勉强翻的了啊。It's a Taiwanese way of saying it's a sarcastic term, princess syndrome. For someone who is overly self-centered and never considers other people's situations. And this kind of person acts as if they are a princess, believing they deserve special treatment from everyone. And yet they are easy to please. As long as you agree with them or go along with their wishes, they're happy. Even if what you say isn't right or is not reasonable, as long as it flatters them, they'll accept it. You can see examples of this throughout history. I think we don't need to elaborate because lots of examples in the history and even in the world today. But since these are negative examples, these are darker side of human nature, 这是人性的黑暗面哦 and there's no need to give them too much attention. All we need to do is to reflect on ourselves. 所以我们不用多说，但是就是反省嘛哦 and ask whether we've ever made the same mistake. So be a princess in repentance to do self-reflection. And 如果小人要用人呢 if a person you are serving is a petty person, then comes the most frightening part. When it comes to how he employs people, he demands perfection. 小人用人哦，就糟了哦。In other words, he expects everything to be flawless. 他力求完美啊，要求别人要完美啊。Even a small mistake might lead to criticism or blame. He's harsh with others, but rarely reflects on himself. 他就是要求别人，从不反省啊。And working under someone like this is exhausting. 在这种人下面工作就很累啊。Not because the task is hard, but because your heart never feel at ease. 所以君子易事难悦，小人难事易悦。君子悦之不以道不悦，小人悦之不以道悦也。君子急其使人也，弃之；小人急其使人也，求备焉哦。因为我们时间关系，后学就不多念英文了。Let's go to the last passage for tonight. 九思。Confucius said, a Junzi has 9 reflections. In seeing, reflect on clarity. 看的时候要反思哦，要看清楚。In hearing, reflect on discernment. 听的时候要反思哈，要听清楚啊。In countenance, reflect on gentleness. 色思温啊，脸色要反省自己脸色有没有温和啊。In demeanor, reflect on respect. 貌似恭啊，自己态度有没有恭敬啊。In speech, reflect on honesty. 啊，讲话的时候要反省自己的言语有没有忠于事实，有没有忠于良心啊。In handling tasks, reflect on respect and care. 做事要谨慎啊。In doubt, reflect on inquiry. 有疑问的时候就要问。In anger, reflect on consequences. 这个很重要啊。愤怒的时候呢，就要反省后果会怎样。And in the face of gain, reflect on righteousness. 有来到利跟义的区别的，但看到利的时候要反省，这个合义吗？合乎义理吗？啊 Okay, let's take a closer look at the concept of the 9 reflections. Why I didn't translate as 9 thoughts or 9 consideration. Instead, I translate as 9 reflections. It's because the word 思. First of all, the word 思, which appears in each of the 9, shouldn't just be understood as to think. Take a look at the character. It comprises a field on top and a heart below. So it reminds us to cultivate our inner field of the heart, to truly cultivate Tao and refine our minds through deep reflection. 所以九思完全是在讲反思哦，而不是在讲这个视听联动，就完全是在反思这本心哦。Cultivate our inner field of the heart. Okay, the first reflection 是思明。In seeing, reflect on clarity. Now, what does it mean to see with clarity? When our minds are unsettled, it's like we are wearing tinted glasses. 我们的心很乱的时候哦，就戴着有色眼镜。We can't see people or the world clearly, but if we cultivate inner peace, we'll begin to see true nature of things without distortion. So when we look at the world, we must look with a clear and calm heart. That's how we see it clearly. 是思明。Second reflection, listening is the same. There's a saying, the speaker may mean nothing by it, but the listener takes it personally. 说者无心，听者有意。 And why do misunderstandings happen? Because we don't always listen with a tranquil mind. We listen through the filter of our own biases and emotions. 我们听别人讲话的时候，就内心动荡不安啊。And that's how words get twisted. To really listen, we must quiet the mind. 听思聪. This goes beyond simply hearing the words clearly. It also includes patient listening, because words are the voice of the heart. 言者心之声啊，他知道人家的心声，就听他讲话，你就了解他的心声。So some people only listen to respond. They're already preparing their reply before the other person finishes speaking. 有人听人讲话的时候迫不及待哦，就是一直要反应。But a true Junzi listens to understand. They allow the speaker to fully express themselves without interruption, and listening not just with their ears, but with a calm and pure heart. Third reflection, gentle countenance means that our expression, our face, should reflect our inner tranquility. Only when our heart is at peace can a true gentle expression arise. Naturally and effortlessly. I like this word, effortlessly. 是无为的. Only your heart at peace in your expression. Effortlessly gentle. The fourth reflection, in demeanor, reflect on respect. Respectful demeanor means our manner and attitude should be respectful and humble. When our mind is pure and calm, arrogance will naturally disappear. Fifth, speak with honesty. Because once words are spoken, they are like water poured out. We can't take them back. That's why we must take responsibility for our words. A promise is a promise. When we keep our word, then the people will trust us, and that's more valuable than gold. And when we speak with a clear conscience, we avoid creating harmful karma through our words. 所以我们秉着清净的本心讲话的时候，就不会造口业啊。所以 in speech, reflect on honesty. Sixth, reflection. In handling tasks, reflect on respect and care. Approach our task with a tranquil and attentive mind, not with careless, lazy, or undisciplined mindset. In doubt, seventh reflection. In doubt, reflect on inquiry. Ask when in doubt. When we have questions, we shouldn't keep them hidden. It's okay to ask and seek answers. Confucius himself, whenever he entered the ancestral hall, 子入太庙，每事问, would ask about every detail. Seventh reflection. In anger, reflect on consequences. This is very practical. Reflect before expressing anger. This is practical. Everyone gets angry sometimes. We are not yet sages, but when we notice ourselves getting upset, we must reflect. What disaster might the anger bring? This is especially important when those closest to us, like our family. The closer we are, the easier it is to lose our temper. We wouldn't go around and yelling at strangers on the street. But when we are in bad mood, it's easy to take it out on our family members. And that's why we often see children arguing with their parents. In Tao cultivation, we must learn to reflect deeply. When we feel anger rising, let's ask ourselves, what consequences might this bring? Once we pause and consider the damage that could follow, we often realize the anger simply isn't worth it. Because when relationships are broken and trust is shattered, repairing them can be incredibly difficult. 破镜无法重圆啊，所以生气是不值得的。The last reflection. In the face of gain, reflect on righteousness. And finally, see benefit and reflect on righteousness. When there's something to gain, we must ask ourselves, is this the right thing to do? If it's unjust, don't take even a single cent. When we truly practice the 9 reflections, we are walking the path of a Junzi, a person of noble character. And each of these reflections actually, in fact, leads us back to our pure and tranquil original heart. 所有的诗都是在反思自己的清净的本心呢啊。Conclusion for tonight. Being a Junzi is a practice of self-reflection, not a label to claim. 并不是说我是君子，我就是君子。It's a practice of lifelong self-reflection. Because Confucius said, since it's hard for me to meet a sage, I would be satisfied to meet a Junzi. That's why we spend so much time on elaborating this topic. Because a sage, someone who has achieved ultimate enlightenment, but a Junzi is a true cultivator striving in the right direction. Confucius certainly hoped that 每一个人都成圣成贤呢。Everyone become a sage, but becoming a sage requires diligent practice. And instead of holding a realistic ideal, more practical way is to see everyone as a Junzi, a true cultivator who diligently walks the path of self-cultivation while wholeheartedly inspiring and guiding others. That's why Confucius said, since it's hard for me to meet a sage, I would be satisfied to meet a Junzi. I will conclude my speech with this slide. If I have made any mistakes, I sincerely beg for forgiveness of God and Buddhas and humbly ask all the masters and lecturers and my fellow brothers and sisters for your guidance. Thank you all very, very much.